is not an acute poison. So these vegetable oils are living a similar way. They're a chronic poison. So, and that's why they're in our food supply without an immediate, obvious, and toxic impact. It takes time. Arsenic would be an example of an acute poison. And it's interesting because arsenic kills you by breaking the electron transport chain. Seed oils do the same over a long period of time. Question?
Yes. When did coconut oil get into the good list?
Coconut oil has been used for centuries and centuries. But now, you got to understand, it's not going to call organic coconut oil. Can't be a hydrogenated processed coconut oil. So it's been on the good list a whole while. And we can get into this a little bit too, but there's misunderstanding about saturated fat. Because saturated fat can actually be very healthy. It's not processed. But your doctors are going to mainly say avoid saturated fat. We're gonna dive into that just a little bit. So arsenic as an acute poison. So your seed oils are chronic, but they're breaking the electron transport chain of mitochondria in the same manner. It just takes long. Okay, so these vegetable oils are largely made of unstable, oxidized omega-6 fats, known as polyunsaturated fatty acid. Now, you find this interesting. And the next page beyond your seed oil, there's a picture of your highly made industrial seed oil, your vegetable oil. That looks like an oil refinery. They make it. And they're trying, the industry is trying to convince you that this grass-fed cattle, which might produce butter or ghee, beef tallow, is the same as this highly processed vegetable oil. And it's interesting, but to make vegetable oils, seed oils, these products have to go through an intense toxic process of many days. The seeds have to be crushed and chemically treated, exposed to intense heat, chemically bleached, treated with a petroleum-derived vaccine solvent bath, and due to a terrible stench, they are deodorized. They are highly oxidized. This is not food. And they now make up 1/3 of our calories. 1/3 of our calories in the average American. How is olive oil made? You just crush olives. There's no heating process. There's no, how is butter made? It's churned from cream. It's very, very different. It's not processed. It's not foreign to mind. Seed oils are. And another problem lies in the form of, it produces this oxidized linoleic acid. And this oxidized linoleic acid from the seed oils, it's stored into our cells. It's stored into our mitochondria. And the bodies can't handle this much oxidized linoleic acid. This changes the integrity of the electron transport chain, causing it to fail over time and eventually causes cell death. Sugar is not stored in our cells. It does not cause mitochondrial dysfunction. Sugar has its own set of problems, but it's not the poison that the seed oil does. Now, these industrial seed oils first came to our food supply in the late 1800s as cottonseed oil. But they really didn't start to take off until after 1911 with the introduction of Crisco to our food supply. The chart attached does a good job of showing the rise of these toxic seed oils. So the next page, we're now past 80 grams a day of consumption of these seed oils. We were at 0 at one point, but it really didn't take off until a lot of the 1960s and so forth, where it became overwhelming in our diet. The body can handle a good deal of toxin. It just can't be overwhelmed with these. And then you can also notice that the rise with the chart in here as well. The next page, the rise in heart disease, coordinating with the rise in seed oils. And then the obesity chart, we're now at 39.8% of us, past 40% now. We were at 1960, we're at 13%. At the turn of the century, we were at 1.2%. This correlates to the rise of seed oils, not from sugar. Sugar has stayed pretty consistent, has gone up over time, but we'll get into a little bit of that too. So at the turn of the century, 1900, 99% of our added fat to our food supply was from animal fats, such as butter, and beef tallow, which is from cows, lard, which is from pigs, suet from lamb. These are natural to our body and our cell. Our bodies know what to do with them. Our seed oil consumption was 1% at the turn of the century, 1900. Today, it is nearly 2% of our calories. And what's crazy for people to wrap their heads around is the old-fashioned way of deep frying foods was 1,000 times healthier than the modern day of deep frying foods and vegetable oil. It's very toxic. Also at the turn of the century, coronary heart disease was a very rare event. Cancer and diabetes was also very rare. Today, these are full-blown epidemics. Right? And they're mostly what's killing us today. Okay, so these diseases, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, they weren't even on the radar until introduction of seed oils. And this is occurring in the last 100 years or so. You think our genes have changed in 100 years? Our genetics, have they changed? No, they have not. It's the same genes, the same genetics. Genetics are not driving this chronic disease. The vast majority of our toxins in mitochondria, we are talking about the toxins in mitochondria, what's creating these problems. It's clearly vegetable oils based on the data. But it's worth mentioning high fructose corn syrup, which was introduced to our food supply in 1970, in the 70s, which is also foreign to our body. High fructose corn syrup is not sugar. It's worse, way worse. But that also creates that problems and damaging. And then also your gluten from your modern wheat products is also a problem. Nothing as damaging as your vegetable oils, but gluten can cause problems too. And you're going to you shouldn't have overconsumption of grains, but we'll get into that as well. Okay, so that covers the main toxins to the mitochondria. And before I cover the nutritional deficiencies that are also wreaking havoc on the mitochondria, I'd like to cover a couple myths that are out there in the health circles. Myth number one, the massive rise in chronic disease is due to the fact that we are now living longer. Actually, we don't live longer. We are living longer on average. Back in the day, we mostly died of waterborne illnesses and sewage issues. We died at young ages of diphtheria, diarrhea, childhood deficiency diseases. A much greater percentage of women died at childbirth. We had plenty of our population living into their 80s and 90s, and they did not die of cancer, heart disease, and diabetes. And if we made it past 5 years old, this is around the turn of the century, 36% of kids did not make it past 5 years old. We often lived, if we did, we may often live to ripe old ages and often disease-free. So it's a little bit of a myth there. One of my great-great-grandmothers in Sweden lived to 106. In fact, she had to go back to work at 85 years old when her husband passed away at 90 because there wasn't Social Security or Medicare back then. You know what her job was at 85 years old? She was a taxi driver, which means back then she drove a horse and buggy. Pretty labor-intensive for an 85-year-old. So that is a myth. That is a myth that's commonly out there, and the data does not support that myth. Myth number 2 is carbohydrates and sugar are the blame for our chronic disease. We just have to get rid of carbs and sugar. The data does not show this. Our sugar consumption today was almost the same as it was in the 1930s. Sugar consumption peaked around 1995, and yet the chronic disease continues to surge. Sugar has its own problems, and I don't recommend it, but it's not the explanation of our great increase in chronic disease. In fact, the data shows it's processed foods that drive disease. Your percentage of macros do not matter either. Macros is what the modern day nutritionists are referring to as your carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Big food, which we were talking about earlier, has trained us to look at the label. This is just a simple cereal that's supposed to be healthy. It's a keto-friendly cereal, supposed to be healthy, and all kinds of health markers on it, right? Big food likes us to look at the fat, carbohydrates, maybe the sugar content, protein. That doesn't matter. Look at the ingredients. Look and see what the product is made of. That's key. They don't want you looking at that. But we're all trained, because I have us trained to look at how much fat is in this, how much sugar is in this product. It matters what type of sugar. It matters what type of fat. It's not the macros don't matter. So I got a few examples here I can share with you too on how they try to trick you. And what's interesting is we have a ton of data for cultures around the world that was documented before processed food came into our diets. And there's a famous dentist known as Weston Price. He documented many living cultures from around the world in 1939. He discovered that the percentage of macronutrients that these people were eating did not matter for their health and longevity. And I'll kind of get to what I mean by that, but there's two quick examples of cultures from around the world that I'll give you that were eating their natural diet. There was a tribe in New Guinea, the Tucasenta, that ate mostly sweet potatoes. It was 90% of their calories. 94% of their diet was from carbohydrates. Doctors would tell you this is going to be diabetic. This is going to be tragic. They were wonderfully healthy with no known heart disease or cancers or diabetes, no obesity. Now, in the opposite spectrum, there was a tribe in Central Africa, in modern-day Kenya, that were pastoralists, known as the Maasai. They ate mainly milk, meat, and blood from the cattle that they raised. They drank 3 to 4 quarts of raw milk a day. 66% of their diet was animal fat, and 40% of that was saturated fat. And they were fantastically healthy. No heart disease to speak of, no other diseases to speak of. The macros don't matter if they're coming from natural sources. There are numerous examples of people eating their ancestral diet and having no chronic diseases to later life. Their introduction of seed oils and processed foods changes this. In fact, it is only when we stray from the diet of meat, fish, eggs, fruit, and vegetables that we become sick. Only when we stray from those. This is usually called an evolutionary diet or a primitive diet. This is the way we need to eat. You will see a basic eating plan attached. And it's kind of simple, like you got your must avoid, you got your do, and then you have your what you need to focus on, what you need to eat. And the expression they use at Lead Nutrition when we're training people on this and helping them, it's more important what you don't eat than what you do eat. So the average person will look at this and be like, they'll look at the what to eat list and they're like, oh, I ate chicken yesterday. I had a salad yesterday. That's not what we mean. We mean must avoid. We mean avoid. It's more important if you avoid those than picking the foods from the bottom. You should eat from the bottom, but avoid if you can 100% of what's at the top. It's not really possible in today's modern processed food diet, but you can really reduce it. Okay, so now onto the nutritional deficiencies that are causing damage to the mitochondria. Remember, we have the toxins, and then we have the nutritional deficiencies. So on average, only 29% of our calories have to provide 100% of our nutrients. This is because 71% of our diet is based on processed foods. So in your next one, after the heart disease and obesity chart, you got your pie chart. This is what we're eating. The average amount. 32% vegetable oils, right? Refined meat, another 17%. We're only eating 29% real food. So of that 29%, that has to provide 100% of our nutrients. Because these other things are not, there's no nutrients in sugar, vegetable oil, or refined meat. And certainly not trans fats. And not to mention that when we fertilize our soil, unless it's organic farming, which is a little different, but typically we fertilize our soil with NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. This will grow large, scrumptious vegetables, but they will be deficient in nutrients, especially the minerals. Okay, so the mitochondria in our cells need many nutrients. It's a very complex process, the way the electron transport chain works, how it passes electrons, produces ATP energy. But it's vital that the electron transport chain has to have certain B vitamins, like vitamin B2, B6, B12. Minerals like selenium, copper, magnesium, and other vitamins such as CoQ10, alpha-lipoic acid, vitamin C, vitamin E, all vital. Without these nutrients in high amounts, the cells become sick and disease sets in over time. Mineral deficiency wreak havoc in the body over time. I'll give you some examples. A selenium deficiency can lead to a heart attack. A copper deficiency can lead to an aneurysm. A chromium deficiency leads to blood sugar issues and eventually diabetes. A magnesium deficiency can lead to atrial fibrillation of the heart, high blood pressure. Calcium deficiencies can lead to high blood pressure, osteoporosis. These are just some of the examples. We have deficiencies of all these nutrients. It's important to support your mitochondria. With food, with nutrition, our nutrition is severely lagging. Now, at Elite Nutrition, I've been doing this for 30 years. We had great success with what's called a 3-pack anti-aging kit. This provides great protection, great support from mitochondria. This will correct the deficiencies we all seem to have. These are non-toxic. There's no side effects. They can be taken virtually with any medications, but of course, show any doctor to be showed. They don't interfere with cholesterol medication. They don't interfere with blood pressure medication. They don't interfere with pain medication. They don't interfere with serotonin reuptake inhibitors, antidepressants. Doesn't interfere with any of those classifications. Because it's essentially food. It's essentially real supplements. It's real food, real vitamins. And there's one area that's called pain-free. It controls inflammation without side effects, without toxicity of fiber, and when you take this. The body has to have inflammation first before it can have pain. Can't have pain without inflammation. You have to reduce the inflammation. Advil won't do it. That is treating the after effect of it. Advil doesn't cure the body of inflammation. It only treats the after effects of inflammation. Inflammation is continuing to come. And also below your bleeding plan, you'll have information on 3 products: the pain-free, the Little Big Multi. And by the way, the Little Big Multi is really high nutrients, very high in omega vitamins, everything you need from mitochondria. There was a Canadian government study a few years back that looked at the absorption rate of hundreds of different vitamins. They were looking at 30 different parameters of absorption. Is the pill disintegrating? Is the uptake of the nutrients happening? The Little Big Multi, along with a few other brands, tested in the 90 percentile. Central, one a day, is tested below 5% absorption. That's made by Big Pharma. It's just the bottom line for them. They're giving you synthetic vitamins, synthetic nutrients. They're not giving you the real high-grade food vitamins. Central and one a day aren't useless, but they absorb a very low percent. Most people will take 2 a day of each. So it'd be 2, 2, and 2, which would be 6 a day total. Some people take more, some people take less. It's structured by area. You guys probably might have questions on that. Come see me afterwards if you're interested in anti-aging kit. It's only $75 today. It lasts a few months. Full retail is $150. We sell it at Elite Nutrition at our locations every day for a low at $98. So we have an everyday low price. So $75 today is a great price. So let's see. In summary, what I'd like to say is that the experts and top scientists are now measuring disease, aging, and inflammation by studying the mitochondria of the cells. This is what all the research is looking at. This is what they link you to. And they have discovered that mitochondrial dysfunction comes before disease can occur. There is no drug to treat mitochondrial dysfunction. Only the avoidance of toxins and the correction of nutritional deficiencies can do this. And this is useless information to Big Pharma and Big Medical. They depend on sickness and disease. They will tell you that aging and disease is all based on your genetics. This is simply not true. The data did not show that. Thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you guys have any, or if anyone wanted to go through any of label reading, I'm happy to help out with that too. Yes.
You talk about sugar. Could you also expand on, say, honey and natural ones like the
Yeah. So the question was on commenting on sugar and honey and things of that nature. So if you get an organic honey, that is a natural process. That is a healthy product that will bring insulin. True, any sugar is going to bring insulin and glucose up, and it's going to come back down. That's a natural process. Honey is a good health food. I mean, I wouldn't eat gobbles of it a day, but a daily tablespoon of honey in your coffee is very healthy. Get a raw honey, can't be processed. Prefer the organic. And then like comments on other sugars would be, get used to looking at your labels, and look for high fructose corn syrup. Don't buy it. If it has just, some natural sugar in it, it's going to be okay. You just don't want it loaded with sugar. And an evaporated whole cane sugar would be best. But there's various other sugars out there. But an evaporated whole cane sugar would be better than, say, a brown sugar. But a brown sugar is still way better than a high fructose corn syrup. But the main thing as you're looking is, like, this is supposed to be a really healthy cereal. First ingredient is almond, which is good. Then there's a soy protein isolate, depending on where that soy is coming from. But we'll call that good. And then there's your erythritol, which is a natural sweetener, which would be actually okay. Cornmeal, okay. That's a carbohydrate, but they're not adding seed oils. And then you got whole grain corn, maple syrup, and then you're getting the high fructose corn syrup, sugar, and then you got canola oil and sunflower oil. So I throw this away. Once I see those seed oils, it's out the door. And then you can check out, they won't tell you how much seed oil, but you can kind of tell that there's 7 grams of fat in there. And most of that fat is coming from the seed oil. And then your people who start eating healthy and they start eating a more primitive evolutionary diet, getting rid of the processed foods, they get crossed up on their mayonnaise because mayonnaise is all soybean oil. It's toxic. But there's brands out there, like this is Primal Kitchen. And this is a Chipotle lime flavored avocado oil. It's a mayonnaise. You can get a non-flavored. It tastes a lot like regular mayonnaise. And when you read this, like the first ingredients, like the avocado oil, organic eggs, organic egg yolks, water, vinegar, sea salt, all healthy stuff. And if you're playing games with the big food companies, Kraft is going to have their own version of an avocado oil mayonnaise. And he's going to say avocado oil mayonnaise. But then when you look at the side, you're going to see the second ingredient, soybean oil, after avocado oil. So they're just cheapening it because they can, it's 1/10 the cost. So you gotta learn to look at read the ingredients. Yes.
Adding on to the sugar thing, one of the products that we have is that glucose support to help regulate the sugar and everything like that.
Oh yeah.
Seen a lot of success with those natural ingredients.
Yeah. Tea is managed by elite nutrition. It's just reminding me that those who have blood sugar issues, cravings for sweet sugars, we have a product called glucose support, which we've had tremendous results with people like hypoglycemic, diabetic. There's an ingredient in there that's herbarium, which mimics metformin in terms of balancing blood sugar, lowering A1C. So sometimes when you are switching from a processed food diet to a primitive, healthier diet, you can get a couple of days when you're kind of craving those sugars. You can get a couple of days where you're craving those bread, that grain. The glucose support can help you get through that. Any other questions?
Why are nightshade vegetables bad?
They're so it's all a matter of perspective. So it's in what you need to eat, but a nightshade vegetable is more inflammatory. Why? It creates more inflammation. So your tomatoes, your peppers, and your basically your I'm trying to think of that one vegetable. The eggplant, yeah. Eggplant is one, and then another one that you see is I said peppers. But understand that your tomatoes and the peppers are 1,000 times better than a Twinkie. Even though they're slightly inflammatory, you got to put it in. So I would give broccoli a 10 in terms of health, right? And I would give tomatoes a 7. It's still good. It's just if someone's really fighting inflammation and arthritis and trying to cure their arthritis, we would take them off nightshades for a period of time. And then we would introduce them later once the pain has subsided. But I can even notice that, like, I know tomatoes are healthy for you, but I notice like my mom will grow garden fresh tomatoes, and boy, are they delicious. And I'll eat 5 or 6 of them like apples. And the next day, my joints ache a little because of that arachidonic acid. So it's a little bit inflammatory, but it's not a cellular toxin like vegetable oil. So it's not toxic to the body. Body can detox from it. Any other questions on this?
You talk about you recommend rice, but Consumer Reports did an article about arsenic in rice. Arsenic was just
Yeah, arsenic is in like everything. It's becoming a problem. It's a heavy metal. You know, the ancient peoples kind of knew what to do with their foods. They learned through their culture over time. They knew that. See, we think that whole grain rice and brown rice is healthier because it's got more nutrients, a little more B vitamins. But actually, the Japanese and the Chinese for years have been stripping their rice down to make it white rice because it's less inflammatory. See, white rice and brown rice have the same equal effect on blood sugar and glucose. They spike the same. The same is true of white bread and whole grain bread. Whole grain bread is more nutritious, but it creates the same inflammation. So we argue, don't eat either. We argue like you're going to have grains, have it sprouting, which what the ancient people did. It just means they just soak all the grains before they cook the bread. So an Ezekiel bread or sprouted bread is much better than a regular whole grain bread, white bread, all that. But a brown rice is going to have a little more arsenic than white rice. But either way, don't overeat rice. Have some with your chicken. Have some with your steak. It's just that rice is closer to nature. It's less inflammatory than the pasta and noodles. So rice is a better option. Sometimes you just get tired of eating just chicken, just steak, I eat a lot of grass-fed beef. I eat a lot of bison. I have elk. I eat a lot of chicken. I eat a lot of eggs. But I'm not having the processed carb with it. And it takes some getting used to. It's kind of weird going out to dinner and not grabbing those warm dinner rolls that are out there that taste so wonderful. So if I'm out to dinner, I'm having preferably a grass-fed steak. I'm having my asparagus. I'll have a baked potato. Perhaps the sweet potato is better. I'll glass of wine, but I'm not having dessert. I might have some berries and some fruit for dessert. And I'm not eating any breads. And another big thing is, unless you're frying it yourself the old-fashioned way, fried foods are the worst. They are the ultimate worst. As now they're taking these seed oils in massive amounts. They're deep frying foods in it, so they're creating when they heat the vegetable oil, it creates all these reactive oxygen species, all these aldehydes right there in the food. So when you're ordering the fried food and you're ordering, the estimates are, they're not sure exactly, but the estimates are when you're ingesting an order of French fries, you're getting 30 to 50 packs of cigarettes with carcinogens. Now 50 cigarettes, 50 packs, upwards of that, because that many reactive oxygen species, that many aldehydes are formed right there in the food. The old-fashioned way of deep frying, beef tallow, lard, was fine. We didn't have the cancers and heart disease then, and they've done studies now that doesn't upset the mitochondria. Lard and beef tallow, animal fats don't upset the mitochondria. It doesn't affect the electron transport chain, the inputs. Industrial seed oils do. Yes.
The air fryers of today.
I like air fryers. Yeah, air fryers are good. Just don't add any oil. Yeah, just put your food in there and air fry it. Yeah, those are good. There's one back there. Yes.
Two questions. Where do you get the evergreen of those made quality? And I saw 100% daily caffeine was good. These are a real high daily level.
Good question. The evergreen vitamin is going to be available at exclusive health food stores around the country. You can get it at Elite Nutrition. We have a location in Mequon, in Glendale. I have business cards up here, but you can go to envitamins.com. E as in elite, N as in nutrition, vitamins.com and order online. There's discounted prices there. You can get it here today. Okay, so in regards to the RDA, that's a very misunderstood thing. The RDA is the minimum standard you need for survival. So I'll give you an example. Vitamin C. If we don't get about 60 milligrams of vitamin C a day, we develop scurvy. Scurvy is where your skin literally peels off. That's a deficiency disease. Now, for optimal health, the experts say you probably need 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day, maybe 2,000 for anti-cancer, anti-aging, cellular health. So the RDA was set up in World War II when our boys were overseas. So they would get severe deficiency disease, rickets, scurvy, those types of things. The amount of vitamin D you need to prevent rickets is very minimal. It's only like 200 IU. But the research is showing to prevent cancer, you need more like 5,000 IU. Your body will make 30,000 in the sun in a half an hour if it needs it. The RDA for vitamin D is 400 IU. That's just enough for survival. So they're just misunderstood. And it's interesting because you'll look at the little big molecule. I don't know if you can see the fine print there, but the B12 this is high for multivitamin, but it's not high in regards to that. So it's great there below the folic acid. It's 750 micrograms per dosage, right? 750 micrograms is 0.7 of 1 milligram. So you're getting a little less than 1 milligram of B12. But look at it's 12,500% of the RDA. It doesn't have to mean anything. We need like 1.2 micrograms of B12 so we don't go insane. It's a brain hit. If you start someone completely at B12, their brain won't function after a period of time. So that's the minimal you need for that deficiency. You can't even see 1.2 micrograms as a typical. You need a microgram. So when you go in the doctor and get a B12 shot, that's totally fine. B12 will provide energy, revitalizing the body. We're actually getting like 50 milligrams of B12 in one shot, which would be 50,000 micrograms, would be miles ahead of the RDA. Now, that doesn't mean you can do that in all nutrients. Minerals have toxicities. You can't go way past. There are certain ones you can and can't. Like, you don't want to go much higher on the RDA than, say calcium. That amount is about right what the body needs to build the bone. We're not giving it, but so it depends on the nutrient. But the RDA is very misleading. They have come up with an ODA. You don't see it on foods, but the ODA is optimal daily amounts. What's more optimal, ideal, as opposed to the minimum standard. So I hope that helps. Any other questions on anything with food, seed oil, what to eat, what not to eat? And yeah, there you go. I like stevia. I like the research on stevia. It doesn't affect the gut flora. It's not a neurotoxin. Avoid aspartame, which is NutraSweet. Of your synthetics, and you're going to see synthetics in all your restaurants and cafes and everything. Splenda would be your best synthetic, which is also known as sucralose. Stevia is best, or just use real sugar. But if you're really cutting back at calories, you don't want to use evaporated oat cane sugar, you could use a Splenda. The research on on sucralose, which is NutraSweet. Sucralose is Splenda. Thank you. Sucralose is Splenda. That's the best one of the synthetics. It's, the only research that shows it does upset the gut flora a little bit. So it can change your gut flora, which is not necessarily a good thing, but research is kind of showing it doesn't seem to be creating any problems. So I'm more fanatical for myself. I don't want any aspartame, which is also NutraSweet. I avoid that, but I have a little Splenda here and there, sucralose. I'm okay with that. So that's the best of year, but I do like stevia a lot. Yeah, question?
So monk fruit, are you familiar with that?
Yeah, the question is on monk fruit. Monk fruit is good. That'd be kind of like another evaporated whole cane type sugar. It's not going to upset the glucose as much, and don't overconsume it. But it's not a poison. Not a poison like a high fructose corn syrup. So, those, when it comes to all those little sweeter type things that are natural, those are okay. Just don't over consume them. It's about the balance of it. But it's amazing. Even and by the way, Big Food didn't set out to poison us. That wasn't their original intention. They were just making a cheaper product. For the same reason, it's funny, at the organic smoothie bar inside of the nutrition. When you come in and you order a smoothie, you get real protein. You get real milk if you want real milk, or you get almond milk, organic as well. You get real organic strawberries, blueberries. You get your real food. So we'll tell the consumer, here's your smoothie. You got 4 or 5 ingredients and you got real food. And then we show them a chart from McDonald's. McDonald's strawberry milkshake has 59 ingredients. And of those 59 ingredients, there's no milk and no strawberries. It's a strawberry milkshake. And they figured out long ago, if they have synthetics for their strawberry, synthetics for their milk, they don't have to have refrigeration. They don't have to have freezers. They just have the chemicals. It's genius. It's just money. It's the bottom line. It's got nothing to do with your health. They're not purposely trying to poison us. It's just the bottom line.
Can you speak to vitamin absorption? I mean, do you formulate yours in a certain way so that it's absorbed by the body as opposed to the normal, the centrums, etc. type of vitamins?
Yeah, and I was reading that a little bit in that Canadian government study, and the companies that finished high on that study, looking at 30 different parameters of absorption, didn't pay for that study. Unlike Big Pharma, they just pay for their own studies and get the results they want. That was an independent analysis. So, there's examples. Yeah, picks out the best available nutrients. And I can give you a couple examples. One would be vitamin E. Vitamin E is vital for our mitochondria. It's vital for our skin. It's anti-cancer. And even it has an effect of thinning the blood, preventing blood clots. Vitamin E is vital, right? Okay, so, and then like the vitamin, like the little big ball thing, vitamin E in here, it's going to be from a wheat germ oil. They extract it from the wheat germ oil. Now, wheat germ oil is not soybean oil. It's a natural oil. It's not heated. It's not processed. They're extracting the vitamin E from it. And then there's just the vitamin E left from the wheat germ oil, the natural food source, right? Your vitamin E in a centrum for 1 a day, a lot of your drugstore vitamins, that is a synthetic petroleum product. That is a man-made petroleum. It's a synthetic version of a natural. Your body just rejects it. It just doesn't recognize it as vitamin E. It just rejects it. That's an example of a synthetic that's useless. Now, I'll probably all about folic acid. Folic acid is used by women who want to get pregnant. It prevents neural tube defects. It's gotten some popularity because we're deficient in it, and the government's got behind it a little bit. Now, that's an example of a synthetic that actually converts in the liver to folate. Folate is a food-grade form. There's no such thing as folic acid in nature. So Evergreen say, well, so that we're not putting folic acid in, we're going to put folate. You get real B vitamin. But folic acid does convert about 70% to the natural. So that's an example of a synthetic that's okay. It's not hurting the body. But why use a synthetic when we can use the natural form? So there's numerous examples like that. And then there's no such thing as synthetic minerals, but you will have your less bioavailable ones. So a really cheap magnesium would be magnesium oxide. It's a shaving of a rock. It's going to be and your magnesium by glycine food grade is going to be 10 times more to So it gets into, and you're going to notice that the magnesium every year is going to give magnesium traps by glycinate and bioavailable. Couple problems that with your most healthiest minerals, the ones that absorb at the highest rate, the ones that prevent disease, the molecular structure, you can't fit it into a pill as easily. So we sell a lot of magnesium at the health food store and Elite Nutrition because people are treating their blood pressure, their AFib, and various things. And they reach for the one that has 500 milligrams of magnesium per pill because they know they need a certain dose, like that's oxide. It fits into a pill easily. Vitamin companies will put that in there. It's cheaper. Where a magnesium biglycinate can only fit about 133 per pill. So you just have to take a little bit more of them, but it's worth it because you're 10 times the absorption rate. So it's all in the sourcing where they're getting things from. And almost all the time the synthetics are cheaper. And then they just put it to market. That's another thing too, is if you're a human being, you need the same nutrients. There's no such thing as a women. Like I'm 54 years old, right? There's no such thing as a men's vitamin over 50, men under 50, excuse me, women under 20. If you're a human being, you need the same nutrients. That's just market. That's just market. There's no such thing as this is made for me. That's just Centrum Silver. I think they just added a little more vitamin C, a little more green, and they call it silver because they're just marketing towards you. And you got to look at the source of things. Any other questions? Yes.
Is there a health store that you are affiliated with?
Yeah, it's called Elite Nutrition. It's a vitamin store. They assume the vitamin side. So we're in Mequon, which is in the Sendex shopping center. You know where Sendex is in Mequon? It's right on Port Road.
Like a highway.
Cool.
Yeah, it's the Mequon Pavilion.
Because I couldn't afford giving you $75 to get your kit to me, but
Oh yeah, sure.
yeah.
Sure, you can pop in anytime. We'll bring your articles with you, and we're on a discount for you. Yeah.
We will be able to see you.
Yes. I'm actually in the trenches working. It's my passion. I love it. I'm there 5 days a week. I'm more of a night owl, so you're gonna see me there in a lot more shifts from 2 to 9 than in the morning. But yeah, you're gonna see me there Monday to Friday a lot. Pardon me?
I said I always was the second shift worker.
Oh yeah. I like my sleep. I don't do well at 5 in the morning. I like to sleep till about 8 or 9.
Aren't you better off though getting your vitamins and minerals through natural food as
Yes,
opposed to a supplement?
absolutely. In fact, if you can follow this eating plan exact and just eat these foods, organic. Now, organic because a modern day, as an example, modern day apple has 1/5 the nutrients it had in the 1950s because of processing, because of what we do with NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, acid for soil, right? So it's almost impossible to get what you need from today's food. Almost impossible. I mean, if you're eating all raw, not all raw, but a lot of raw foods, organic, no processing, you can get there. And then the question is, can you go beyond that with some extra supplementation for even better health? And I would argue that it says you can. But yeah, believe me, I take a good 30 to 40 supplements a day of natural things. Vitamin C, vitamin E, calcium, magnesium, my minerals, pain-free. I take all 3 of these. And I'm passionate about this. I'll be the first to tell you, food has to come first. Food has to be first. These are the supplements. They don't replace good eating. They don't replace good food. That's an important point. Yes.
I just wanted to say thank you.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Hey.
Helped me out several years ago.
Oh, good. Any other questions? Yes.
Your friend could contain calcium carbonate, but else ain't cider. So we have to really go.
Yeah, so you're going to often see in some supplements, it'll say other ingredients, and it'll say calcium carbonate. That's just a natural filler. It'll be very little carbonate in there, but instead of using an artificial filler, because all the fillers have to have some type of natural filler or a synthetic filler. But to answer your question, a carbonate is a shaving of a rock. It's not as bioavailable as like a calcium citrate or a calcium like lysate would be a better, more bioavailable to build bone. So citrate is a better source of your calcium. And then the kind that's in here, by the way, this little big multi, they're putting as much calcium as they can in there. I still take a little extra. It's hard to fit calcium, magnesium you need in here. So I have all your other bits that you need in abundance. Well, you could be arguing you need a little extra cal mag. Yeah, question? One of you guys? Okay. Yeah.
I read a number of years ago that if you are deficient in vitamin B, mosquitoes will like you a lot better. And if you're up on your vitamin B, you don't go for everyone else but you.
Yeah, there's some truth in that. It's vitamin B1. B1 gives your skin smell. Humans can't detect it, but the mosquitoes can. And it's probably some kind of a yeasty smell they think that we can't detect, but the mosquito can, and they're less likely to bite you. But then I was reading a recent study that they're really, and disease is not based on genetics. Eye color is, hair color is, but those hardcore things are genetics. But the mosquito and the type of fragrance we give off, our pheromone, are genetic to a large extent. And so mosquitoes think it's like some of us more than others. I've met some people who, the people on high dose who didn't, they still got bit like crazy. You got a question? Okay. Yeah, we can go for business card. I just been told that I have to conclude this, so thank you so much.